My marriage was never meant to be the beginning of a new life. According to the plan others had made for me, it was supposed to last for only one night. By sunrise, my husband would divorce me, and I would be thrown out like someone who had never mattered. My stepmother had agreed to the arrangement without a second thought, accepting 5 lakh rupees in exchange for my fate. I cried, begged, and pleaded for mercy, but no one listened. In the end, I stopped fighting people and placed my trust in God alone. What happened after that was something I could never have imagined. But before destiny changed my life, I had to survive the darkest chapter of it. A sharp slap suddenly landed across my face. "Can't you see what you're doing? You're wasting all the soap." My stepmother's furious voice dragged me back to reality. Tears welled in my eyes, but I quickly wiped them away before anyone noticed. My hands had become rough and cracked from endless washing. Yet I continued scrubbing clothes without stopping. Pain had become part of my daily routine. I often wondered what crime I had committed simply by being born. Why had my father's death turned me into an unwanted burden? Why did everyone treat my existence as if it were a curse? Those questions echoed inside me every day, yet no answers ever came. The only thing I refused to lose was my faith. Deep inside my heart, I believed God was watching. Somehow, someday, He would write a different ending for me. For now, though, I was just another helpless girl standing in cold water with trembling hands, finishing chores that never seemed to end. As I carried dirty dishes into the courtyard, my stepbrothers burst into laughter. Looking at her face is enough to scare death away. Their mocking voices echoed through the house. My stepmother smiled cruelly before adding, "Even the devil would refuse to marry a girl like her." The entire family laughed together. Each word pierced my heart like a blade. I lowered my eyes and continued washing the dishes as if I hadn't heard anything, but inside, something was breaking. My fingers shook against the metal plates, and my vision blurred with tears. For the first time in my life, instead of making a prayer, I whispered a painful plea. "God, turn every laugh they enjoy today into tears someday. Let them understand the pain they have given me." The moment those words escaped my heart, I felt frightened of myself. Until then, I had only prayed for patience. That night, I unknowingly prayed for justice. Little did I know, that same night would become the first step toward a destiny no one in that house could have predicted. That evening, after everyone had gone to sleep, silence settled over the house. I quietly slipped into the tiny corner that had become my refuge. It wasn't a real bedroom, just an old storage space with a worn-out cot and a leaking roof. Rainwater dripped through the broken ceiling, each drop echoing through the darkness like a reminder of how empty my life had become. I wrapped an old blanket tightly around myself, hoping it would protect me from the cold. It couldn't. The cold wasn't coming from the weather anymore. It lived inside my heart. I looked toward the ceiling and whispered another prayer. "God, I don't ask for riches or comfort. I only ask for a place where I can live with dignity. Someone who accepts me despite my broken life." The room remained silent. Still, I believed He was listening. Morning arrived far too quickly. Every bone in my body ached from exhaustion, but resting was never an option. Before the sun had fully risen, my stepmother was already shouting orders. "There will be no breakfast for you. Finish all the work first." I swallowed my hunger and picked up the broom. My hands moved automatically across the courtyard while my mind remained numb. I had become like a machine, working without complaint because I knew complaining would only invite more punishment. Just as I finished sweeping one side of the yard, my stepmother stormed toward me. "What kind of cleaning is this?" she snapped. "Are you sweeping the floor or trying to attract men?" The accusation hit harder than any slap. Before I could even respond, she called my stepbrothers outside. "Come and see the girl we've been feeding. One day she'll ruin this family's honor." They stared at me with disgust. Not one of them asked if the accusation was true. Not one of them defended me. By sunset, my legs were barely able to support my weight. My stomach burned with hunger. I drank a few mouthfuls of water, hoping it would ease the pain, but it only made me feel weaker. Then came another punishment. My stepmother shoved me into the same dark room and locked the door from the outside. The damp walls smelled of mold. There was nothing to eat, nothing to drink, and nowhere to escape. I hugged my knees tightly against my chest as hunger twisted through my stomach. Outside, I could hear laughter. Inside, I could hear only my own heartbeat. That night, I made the same desperate prayer I had made countless times before. God, if this suffering is meant to test me, then give me strength. But if mercy is near, please let it find me soon. I had no idea that before another sunrise arrived, I would risk everything for a single chance at freedom. Locked behind that door, I made a decision that would either save my life, or destroy it forever. The darkness inside that locked room grew heavier with every passing hour. I sat against the cold wall, listening to the wind whistle through the cracks. My stomach was empty, my body ached from endless work, and the bruises from earlier still burned beneath my clothes. Every breath reminded me that I could no longer survive this life. Then my eyes fell on the tiny window. It was old, rusted, and barely large enough for someone to squeeze through. For a long moment, I simply stared at it. A single thought echoed inside my mind. If I don't leave tonight, I may never leave at all. My heart pounded as I quietly stood up. With trembling hands, I pushed against the rusted frame. It resisted at first, letting out a loud creaking sound that froze me in place. I held my breath. No footsteps. No voices. Slowly, I tried again. This time, the frame shifted just enough to create an opening. I wrapped my scarf tightly around my waist so it wouldn't snag on the broken edges and carefully pulled myself upward. Every movement sent sharp pain through my exhausted body. My elbow scraped against the rough bricks, tearing my skin. For a moment, I almost slipped back inside. But I refused to give up. After one final effort, I managed to climb through the narrow opening. Outside, the night was silent. I looked down. The ground wasn't very far, but in my weakened condition, even that short distance felt terrifying. Closing my eyes, I whispered, "God, protect me." Then I jumped. The impact sent a wave of pain through my legs. My knees hit the ground hard, and my hands scraped across the rough road, leaving fresh wounds behind. For several seconds, I couldn't even breathe. But when I finally looked back at the house, the locked room was behind me. For the first time in years, I had escaped. Ignoring the pain, I forced myself to keep moving. The empty streets stretched endlessly ahead. Cold air stung my cuts as I stumbled through unfamiliar alleys, too frightened to stop. Each step drained the little strength I had left. My vision blurred. My legs became heavier. Finally, the world around me began to spin. I reached out, trying to steady myself against a nearby wall, but my body refused to cooperate. Everything faded. Just before darkness swallowed me completely, I heard the sound of approaching footsteps. Someone was coming. I tried to open my eyes. But it was already too late. When I regained consciousness, I expected to find freedom waiting for me. Instead, I woke up in the very place I had risked everything to escape from. When I slowly opened my eyes, the first thing I saw was the familiar cracked ceiling of our house. My heart sank. The escape I had risked everything for had failed. Before I could gather my thoughts, a sharp pain shot through my scalp. My stepmother had grabbed me by the hair and dragged me across the courtyard as if I were nothing more than a piece of trash. "So, you've come back after meeting your lover?" she screamed. I didn't. I tried to explain, but another slap silenced me before I could finish. My stepbrothers rushed toward me the moment they heard her shouting. Without asking a single question, they joined in. One kicked me in the ribs. Another shoved me onto the ground. Every blow stole another piece of my strength. "I swear I wasn't running away with anyone," I cried. "I only wanted to." A punch cut off my words. For them, my silence was guilt, and my truth meant nothing. They believed every lie spoken against me because believing the truth would have required kindness, something they had never shown me. After they were finished, they locked me inside the same dark room once again. I lay on the cold floor, barely able to move. Rain dripped through the broken roof, landing beside me one drop at a time. Each drop reminded me that freedom had slipped through my fingers. Yet strangely, deep inside my heart, I didn't feel completely defeated. I had tried. For the first time in my life, I had refused to accept my fate without a fight. Maybe I had failed. Maybe my body carried new bruises because of it. But my spirit had taken its first step toward freedom. The following morning, despite everything that had happened, my stepmother shoved a small cloth bag into my hands. "Go buy vegetables," she ordered coldly. "And don't disappear with another man this time." I lowered my head without replying. The streets were unusually quiet as I walked toward the market. Every step sent pain through my injured legs, but I kept moving. Halfway there, a faint cry caught my attention. Near the corner of the road, an elderly vegetable seller had collapsed beside his cart. Fresh blood trickled down his forehead while vegetables lay scattered across the dusty ground. People glanced at him. Then simply walked away. No one stopped. No one cared. Without thinking, I rushed toward him and knelt beside him. I tore a strip from the edge of my own scarf and gently pressed it against his wound, trying to slow the bleeding. The old man looked into my eyes with gratitude. His lips trembled as he whispered, "May God reward you, my daughter." Those few words touched my heart more deeply than anyone could ever imagine. After years of hearing only insults, someone had finally spoken to me with kindness. I didn't realize it then. But that simple act of compassion was about to change my entire destiny. The injured stranger I helped looked like an ordinary vegetable seller, but the truth about his identity would soon turn my life upside down forever. The elderly man struggled to sit up, but his body was too weak to support him. I carefully helped him lean against the wall before gathering the vegetables that had rolled across the road. Most people had walked past without even slowing down, pretending they hadn't seen him. As I placed the vegetables back into his basket, he watched me with eyes full of gratitude. "My daughter," he said softly, "kindness like yours has become rare." I lowered my gaze, embarrassed by his words. "I only did what anyone should do," I replied quietly. He smiled sadly. "No," he said. "Most people only help when they expect something in return." Those words stayed with me. At home, I was treated as if I had no value. Yet here was a complete stranger thanking me as though I had given him something priceless. When he finally managed to stand, I handed him his basket. Before leaving, he raised his hands and prayed for me. "May God fill your life with happiness where you believe none exists. May He reward every tear you've shed." I felt my eyes sting. No one had ever prayed for me with such sincerity. As I continued toward the market, his words echoed in my heart. For the first time in years, I felt a tiny spark of hope. Maybe kindness was never wasted. Maybe God truly saw every act, no matter how small. When I returned home, reality welcomed me once again. Rain had begun falling heavily, soaking my worn clothes before I even reached the front door. The moment I stepped inside, my stepmother's sharp voice cut through the air. "So, you finally returned. Were you busy meeting another admirer?" I remained silent. There was no point defending myself anymore. She looked me up and down with disgust. "Who would ever marry a girl like you? No beauty, no dowry, no future." Each sentence struck harder than the rain outside. I quietly carried the vegetables into the kitchen and began working again, pretending her words no longer hurt. But deep inside, every insult left another scar. That evening, while washing dishes in the courtyard, I noticed an old traveler standing near the gate. His white beard was soaked from the rain, yet his face carried an unusual calm. He looked directly at me. Then, in a gentle voice, he said, "My daughter. I can see the pain hidden behind your silence." Those simple words made my heart stop. How could a complete stranger see what no one else ever had? What the old traveler told me next would become the turning point of my life, and the beginning of a miracle I never thought was possible.